Starting route to Escapeexpeditions.
Alright, the last game we have to talk about is the game formerly known as Friday the 13th.
And we say it like that because we were so excited to talk about Friday the 13th at Escape Room Live because we love how they had so many different IPs in their games. They used to have a Ghostbusters game, they had a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, a Titanic game, and a Friday the 13th game, all licensed IPs. And it looks like the only one they have left is Titanic. We don't know exactly what happened, but...
What happened is they lost the IP.
Anyway, we don't know the details of what happened. When we played this game in the summer of 2018, it was called Friday the 13th, and it was very Jason Camp Crystal Lake themed, and now it's just generic cabin. But I'm sure it's still the exact same game.
Yeah, I'm sure. So I'm going to read the very brief story. The cabin. Difficulty level 5 out of 10. 8 to 10 players? That seems like way too many. There's a maniac on the loose in the woods, otherwise known as Jason. You and your friends need to break into the cabin and lock yourself in before it's too late.
Yes, that sounds like the exact same game we played, minus the name Friday the 13th and minus Jason. Yes. Minus Jason is on the loose in the woods. Yeah. It's just maniac. But anyway, what I really liked about the story of this game, it's the opposite of an escape room. You're not trying to escape the room, you're trying to lock yourself in the room.
Yes, this was... I don't know if it was your favorite. This was my favorite Escape Room Live game that we played.
It was my favorite in terms of the actual game, but the experience was not my favorite because we were fighting for the whole game. And it was also the only game we played there, just the two of us.
Yes. That's not true. What?
Yeah, it is.
No.
Yes.
See, guys, this is how the game was.
Titanic.
As I was saying, this was my favorite Escape Room Live game. And story-wise, what you said is exactly correct. Instead of escaping the room, you are locking yourself into a part of the room, which makes sense because Jason is on
the maniac.
Is on the loose.
The maniac, formerly known as Jason.
Is on the loose, and you are trying to barricade yourself in and do things in order to prepare yourself for his arrival so you don't get slain.
Yeah, I'm not sure what they changed it to now, but when we played, the objectives of the game were clearly listed on an actual clipboard that said, like, Jason checklist. Like, how...
Now it probably says maniac checklist.
How to lock yourselves in. So while you were solving the puzzles and unlocking locks, the locks that you were taking off of the boxes that you were unlocking were the locks, I'm saying locks so many times in this sentence, that you put on the door to close yourself in. So there was 4 total, and once you put all 4 of the locks on the door and slam the door shut, then your timer ended.
Yes. Also, as a note, this game was 45 minutes long.
Yes, this game is 45 minutes long.
So, as for the story, that's pretty much it. You have to get into the cabin and lock yourself in and escape Jason the Maniac. I think they could have added, when we played it, I feel like you should have felt Jason's presence a little bit more than you did.
There was no Jason at all when we played. There was no jump scare of Jason. Yeah. There was no pictures or... Is that the machete? Is that the tool he used? The knife? I don't watch horror movies, guys. There was nothing of that. Mm-hmm. So it really, I mean, it could have been called The Cabin when we played, I guess.
Yeah, it just said, like, Jason's checklist and, like, Camp Crystal Lake and stuff like that. It wasn't... There was no actual Jason. So that would have been my critique of the immersion. I wanted like a jump scare in the window or something. That would have been awesome. Mm-hmm. Or like approaching footsteps or something in like the soundtrack.
Yeah, but there wasn't any of that. I do agree that there should have been a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. It was cool that the actual puzzles were things that you would do to prepare. So that's kind of immersion-y.
Yeah, it wasn't just, puzzles for puzzles' sake.
Mm-hmm. The red herring was immersion breaking.
I really think that wasn't supposed to be there. I think they just didn't reset it.
It was. This is why we were fighting. This is the exact reason.
One thing that frustrates me about Escape Room Live is they intentionally put red herrings in their puzzles, and one red herring in this game in particular was the reason that we were fighting for the whole game, because I was like, it doesn't mean anything, and Jocelyn was so sure that it meant something, and
This is why I hate red herring.
And I was stressed because it was a 45-minute game, and there was no time left, and I was like, we're wasting our time on this red herring, and we had to ask for a clue, and we were mad. Just take out the red herrings. It's just so simple. There's just no reason to have it in a 45-minute game. You're going to intentionally misdirect people. But once we got over that, the rest of it was smooth sailing and very fun.
That's why it's so annoying, because the game was awesome, except for that. Like, and literally, all I had to do was pick it up, take it out of the game. Like, I could have fixed it in 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And, like, the game would have been great. It still is great. It's a great game. Just they lose points for that.
If you do go play, just keep it in mind that if you think something for sure is part of a puzzle, that you're just missing a piece, or you don't know what to do with it and it's frustrating
or you don't think it's working,
put it down and move on, because it probably is a red herring. So that's just something to keep in mind when you go play, if you ever do, at Escape Room Live, in all of their games, not just this game.
Yeah. Production value is incredible in this game. They do indoor outdoor very well. In the outside part of the cabin, it has mulch, wood chip. It's like rubber mulch.
Mm-hmm. Like the kind you would find in a playground.
Yeah, so that was awesome. And inside of the cabin also felt inside of a real cabin, not a fake cabin or a four white-walled cabin.
Not as good as a Sasquatch cabin, but...
No, not at all.
But this one was a different one. This was not... The cabin in Sasquatch was supposed to be a rundown forest ranger situation, dilapidated cabin. This one was supposed to be a cabin at Camp Crystal Lake. Mm-hmm. So there was bunk beds and, like...
I wonder if it's just, like, camp now.
It's not... It's Camp Crystal Pake.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I just scratched it out. It just says camp.
Who knows? But this one, it just looked more like a generic cabin that you would sleep in at camp, which obviously, I actually don't know what that would be like, because I've never slept at camp. You've never seen
The Parent Trap?
If you've seen The Parent Trap, you know what the cabin in this game looks like.
Yeah, it looks like that.
So I thought they delivered on what they wanted to achieve, and I thought it was great. There are some places that don't do outdoor escape room scenic very well, but Escape Room Live does a really convincing job in this game to make it look like you're outside. There's puzzles that involve, like, the campfire, and...
I really like that puzzle.
Things that you would do outside at camp, and then once you get inside the cabin...
Moving on to puzzles.
And once you get inside the cabin, you're going through your Jason checklist, which might just be generic maniac checklist now, and doing the different steps it says in order to prepare yourself for the maniac arrival. So that I thought was really cool.
I ranted a lot already about the red herring situation. Other than that, I thought the puzzles were great. Maybe like 7 out of 10.
For the difficulty scale?
No, for how much I like them.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that when you have a 45-minute game, you can't have that many puzzles overall. Because for 45 minutes, people are generally escaping, what, in 35, 40 minutes? So if you think of a traditional 60-minute game and how many puzzles there are in that, take off 15%.
Yeah.
Or take off 25%, and that's how many puzzles are in this game. So they can't really be that challenging for you to finish in that amount of time.
Yeah, they weren't. I really liked putting the locks on the door and like the story things that you had to do, but there were a couple puzzles in between that were just kind of like filler puzzles that I wasn't really that into. But the bigger ones were a lot of fun.
Yeah, and from what I can remember, this game was a mostly lock and key type. There was some tech, but not super a lot. I know that matters to some people.
As far as overall experience, our experience was tainted because we were fighting the whole game, but that fight was caused because they want to put red herrings in their game. So really it was on them.
It's their fault. No, I mean, if we subtract that part from the situation, we really loved this game.
Yes.
And everything else was a seamless flow of the puzzles. We did finish in time, so that's a plus, even though I was afraid that we weren't going to.
I feel your residual anger.
I know, a year later, and I'm still glaring at you about it. But I really liked the overall vibe of Escape Room Live. It kind of feels like you're at a very well-organized restaurant.
Yeah, it's like, feels like restaurant attraction.
Yeah, like an attraction. That's what I was trying.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. It feels like you're at a very well-organized attraction where you get there and there's a bar and there's places to hang out and photo booths and they give
lockers.
You and lockers and they give you a beeper and they buzz you when your game is ready.
It's not a beeper. It's like a buzzer from a restaurant.
Okay, sorry that I didn't call it a buzzer.
No,
you get a buzzer.
Beeper makes me think about like pagers.
Right, that's why I didn't say pager.
Okay, whatever.
It beeps at you. Whatever.
It
doesn't
does
matter.
not beep.
Oh my... I swear to God. What I'm trying to say is that it's very well organized. It's very professional.
It also feels very corporate, though.
It does, but they only have 2 locations. They have the they have the Alexandria location and the Georgetown location. So it's not like a national corporate chain.
Right,
or
I just
anything.
mean like there's a very different feel when you go to a local venue and you're like talking to people there who will give you recommendations or like having a conversation with the owner or the designer or something. That's a completely different experience than going to a place like Escape Room Live, which feels like you're taking a ticket number.
Right, yeah. For a lot of enthusiasts really like to talk to owners and give feedback and recommendations and all of that when they're playing their games or after they play their game, and you don't really get that here. But that's not to say that it was negative in any way, it's just different. And we mentioned this when we talked in our road trip episode about when we visited Escape Room Live, that it's very difficult to get a private game here. They get so many walk-ins and they're so busy and they're so popular. So that's another thing to keep in mind when you go. If you are one of those people that does not like to play with strangers, it's very difficult to not play with strangers when you go here.
All right. Anything else you want to say about them? Or about Friday the 13th / the cabin?
No, I don't have any more thoughts about the generic cabin. It's another really great option for the spooky season.
It's fun also if you go into it and you're like, and you pretend that it's still Friday the 13th and just imagine where everywhere it says maniac, it says Jason instead. You'll get the same experience.
Yeah, this is true.
Your destination is on your right. The end of this review.